Hey everyone, welcome to Tint Wisdom number 104. Today I'm joined with Chris Hardy from Xpel. Hey Chris.
Hel- Hey Eric, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I'm great, thank you.
Just want to bring up all those medals behind you. Congratulations on your performance at the recent tournaments. We were just chatting about it before, and
Thank you.
that's beyond impressive.
It's my little vice in life. It's what allows me to recover from the long days of being on the phone and zone out for a bit. I train 6 days a week, and I compete at least once a month when COVID's not happening. So now that competition is back, it's been awesome.
How long have you been training in total?
12 years in total. I started in an MMA club in Kamloops, British Columbia in 12 years ago, and then focused on MMA in general, like all disciplines. Did fight in the cage, didn't do well. Got knocked out on the last fight really, really bad for over a minute and a half. Woke up, was like, okay, I'm done with MMA. I was already 40 years of age. I had no false aspirations of making it to like UFC or something. I just wanted to see where my skill level was at, obviously from the training that I was putting in, and then started doing strictly jujitsu and started competing in strictly jujitsu shortly thereafter. And it wasn't really until maybe 4 years ago that I finally gained the confidence and started going on a winning streak. I made it to the top five in the world at purple belt in my division, to be more specific, because you have weight division. Sorry, you do not have a weight division in the rankings. That's not true, but you have an age division. So there's usually a 5 year spread once you reach 30 years of age. So I made it to the top five in the world for purple belt, and then got promoted to brown, which now I'm starting to try and escalate my ranking in that. And after last weekend, I should now be in the top 20 in the world. So pretty good for about a year and a half in.
Yeah, to say the least. And it's just like the amount of discipline that must go into that sort of training and to excel at that level. Like I imagine that then like pours over to other things because when you're able to make those accomplishments, you're able to, set your mind to make other accomplishments, and it kind of, I don't know, flattens out your perspective maybe a little bit, right?
I'm sure it has an effect. I mean, making weight is a big deal. I will cut as many as 30 pounds for the major competitions. I really have a serious sweet tooth. Everybody that's been around me knows this. I'm a dessert guy through and through. The cookies you sent me last time were like absolutely divine.
I felt bad when you said you're on
and
a weight cut. I
but
was
I
like,
was in,
oh my god, that's
I was on the window of a weight cut. I still managed to have a couple because like I was looking at my weight and going, oh, I could handle one or two of those right now. But yeah, there's a lot of discipline, especially in the training. My wife is obviously incredibly supportive. We've got a 1 year old daughter, and she takes on the brunt of taking care of her and that aspect of our household. As you know, I have a business partner, Dave Glendenning, who we co-own a number of operations up in Canada, some tint and paint protection film shops, along with coating shops, Protex franchises, as well as one that isn't. And same thing, he's incredibly supportive. Julia, his what I call common law, is our general manager. She's the same. They take on a lot of responsibility so that I can put in the kind of devotion that I need to do this. And it definitely pours out when I'm in charge of a team of guys, and I try not to micromanage them. It's a big thing for me. I don't like being micromanaged, and I don't like doing it in return. But I need to see from them that they've got that same kind of discipline to drive forward and make things happen. And all of my guys do. I think everybody in Xpel's world do. And in fairness, I see it in a lot of the competition too. Let's be very candid with each other. We have some great competition out there. I've said this last time you and I talked. I'm a huge fan of Eastman. I'm a huge fan of 3M. Those two companies in particular really stand out for me as phenomenal competition that holds us to accountability and making sure that we're striving 24/7. And I watch some of those guys and how much effort they put in, and I know that everybody in our industry is doing. I feel that is literally doing the best that they can.
so. The last time we spoke was Tint Wisdom number 98. It was like a group, and something that stood out to me then was you being the we talked about it on that Tint Wisdom was you being the guy behind DAP going Xpel dealer only. And
Yeah.
that stands out to me for so many reasons because it's something that's constantly talked about. I immediately had like great respect for you just when you told that story. simply for the reason that, not only is it, as you said, it was a successful move, but even without that, it's a it's a move of, like, you have to have that feeling of really like, hey, this is a big move, and to steer a company in that direction and make that jump, like whether it works perfectly or it doesn't work perfectly, you have to respect somebody that's going to make that sort of move, and especially when it's a smart one. So, putting that kind of to set the tone, if anybody hasn't seen that and wants to like hear more about it, I have a post that I screenshotted from today, and
Oh, okay.
it says, I want DAP back. Who else has a program I can try? I'm seriously over Precision Cut 5. Whatever program it is, I need window film patterns. Lumar dealer here. And then there was one comment when I screenshotted it. And the one comment said, almost every other vehicle I do a pattern is nowhere near what DAP was. I got kicked out because I wasn't selling Xpel. Going from DAP to PC5 is night and day. From eyebrows, not even close, to bottom edges barely fitting under seals. Now the 2020 Ram, the width doesn't even tuck behind the seals fully. I could send in revisions on every, and so on. So that was basically the end. So,
Very contentious topic.
right. So there's, okay, no doubt about it. You mentioned it on the previous Tint Wisdom. You said, you approximately said, I would rather make 4 and change a square foot from film than $1 and change a square foot from cut patterns. Totally understand that. Now, by making it,
That's a big part of it, yeah.
or
There's
one
more
part,
to
right.
it, of course, but keep going.
So now there's the other aspect of, like, you have a race for PPF from amongst other manufacturers and being able to slow down their, their moves and gain more strategic advantage in marketplace. And there's a lot of aspects to that. I
Correct.
guess my question is, there are still people out there who are more than happy to buy Xpel PPF. They don't want to cut the other brand's film. They might even be a Lumar dealer now, and they say, I don't care. I just want to cut the film. Is there anything on the forefront, or do you see a way that you could respect the dealers that are Xpel dealers in their territories, but somehow open up a level for somebody who says, I still want the film, I still want to cut it, and what can we do?
So, okay, this might take a little bit longer than you want me to take on this, but there's a number of aspects to the answer. Number one is that, to be more specific, the program, that gamble I took, I think is the real correct way of putting it, had a lot of facets to it. And at the time, I was in charge of 15 U.S. states myself. Um, it was only me that had started it and was using it, and of course, like we talked about last time, it was really successful. And in turn, some of the other guys started to implement it, and then it became, if you will, Xpel's policy as of January 1st, 2020, that all new accounts coming on board had to make the conversion in order to have access to not only DAP, but also the Xpel program, which includes, as you know, a lot of our marketing strategy, because our marketing strategies obviously paid off very well for us as well.
Sure.
So, however, I even currently have a couple of accounts that are not exclusive to me that have DAP. And I don't want anybody to call me out at some point and go, Chris, you lied. You said that this was the rule. No, it was the rule for coming on board. It was not the rule for people in existence. And I have a shop, for instance, in Raleigh. It's a fantastic shop. I've been to the shop. They do great work. They do Suntech and Xpel, but he's been on board with us since way before we even started in the film business. We were just a pattern company back then, and I didn't have a lot of competition for him in Raleigh at the time. So it was not smart of me to sit there and sort of like force his hand in case he decided, well, screw you, Chris, I'm off to Suntech only then, and have no representation going on in Raleigh. Now, it's funny because we openly talked about the fact that I said, look, at some point, what's probably going to happen is we're going to revisit the conversation. I think the reason being is because you're not going to be happy with all these new operations coming on board in Raleigh. And so I kind of like relate it to a marriage. And I say, look, my wife and I, right, we've been married for a couple of years now, beautiful child. My wife would not be okay with me going off and dating another woman and it still staying married, and I wouldn't be this in return for her. The marriage would
Sure.
fall apart. And so Xpel tries, and I do say try because it's not a foolproof system, tries to be understanding of what the shops are looking for. A shop is typically looking for a fantastic product, fantastic pricing, product including software, Obviously, really good marketing step up behind it so that they're not spending all their money to do all the marketing for us as the company, but also to not set up everybody around them, right? Every
Right.
one of us that has shops, and that includes myself, as you know, Dave and I have got some very successful shops back home. We don't want Xpel going in and setting up 5 other shops in Kamloops and in Victoria or Langford where we have them. We would rather that we had sort of like an exclusivity, sort of call it territory. Now, some people will go, well, how much is the mileage? Well, that's a hard answer because it's not set on a specific mileage with a specific contract. It's more of an understanding. Look, if I'm in a population of 100,000 people here in the U.S. and I'm in the city of 100,000 people, and I'm buying $100,000 a year, that's $1 per person per year. That is ideally what Xpel is looking for as its market share. It is really trying to geo-target between 75 cents and $1 per person in the US per year. And in Canada, it's higher. It's more like $2 per person per year. If let's say I represent a city where I'm only buying $10,000 a year, and that city's still 100,000 people, it's only 10 cents. We know that bringing on another shop would not realistically interfere with that existing operation, assuming that it's not next door, and that the two of them could coexist doing business with each other and not hurt each other and yet still represent our brand. But at some point, it does get to that capacity level. And it's at that moment that shop does not want us to do that. So I think that what's fair is if you go back to me starting this in October of 17 and you start talking to all of these shops, and some of the more famous shops like Detailing Dynamics and Eurotech and Blackout Tinting and Automotive Elegance, obviously the big boys,
Mhm.
and Sunstoppers and stuff, and you say, look, what did you gain from this marriage? Do you feel that it was worthwhile? Was it just a forceful move to shove you to the software only, or did it pan out for you? I know for a fact that if every one of those shop owners jumped on this call with us, 100 of them would say it was the best move I ever made. My business has grown exponentially. They haven't set up everybody around me, and so for that reason, I love what Chris brought to the table. Now, again, Erica, I don't want to mislead everybody on this call. I don't want to say that this has been a foolproof system. Even Dean, who has been an incredible individual within my team that took on a lot of my territory, there has been an occasion or two where he's called me going, wow, Chris, you know what? I really screwed up. I didn't realize there was a guy there. And now I set up this guy here. What do I do? How do I fix this? Can you help me out?
Right.
And we do our best to work through it.
Right.
Going back to the question, is there theoretically an opportunity in the future for us to maybe bring back that hybrid? I would never say no, because we're always looking at things and wondering whether or not this is the current best move for our company, and it's a total, right? And the great thing, as you know, and I mentioned this last time, is Ryan Pate, Matt Moreau, Rob Besner, Mike Mayall, all the guys above me. They really allow us to manage things in our own fashion as long as we can prove that it's working out for the entire company and obviously the shareholders and everybody that we have to be responsible to.
Mhm.
If it's not, they're gladly going to step in and go,
Sure.
we got to make some modifications to what you're doing. We brought in a guy out of from Eastman. He didn't quit Eastman. Let me be clear about it. I don't want to make people feel like, wow, Xpel stole this guy away from Eastman. But we have this awesome sales manager on the west side of the country, and this is new for him, right? And he's going to get acclimatized to this, and he's going to see, wow, like this model, is it working everywhere? He might change. He might sit there and go, hey, you know what? Maybe over here, could I approach this opportunity in a different fashion than they're doing over in the east? Would it be successful? Again, I don't know if there's room for him to make that judgment call yet, because again, we put this in place as a policy. But
Mhm.
again, let me be specific. It's all new accounts. So if an account has not been with us for 6 months, haven't made any purchases for 6 months, we are now stopping that account and saying, you are not an active account. If they're not purchasing at a certain level to make locator, which is very easy numbers to reach, that is maybe not going to be qualified anymore as a wholesale account. And again, I don't want people to panic and go, oh, Chris said that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we
Mhm.
are looking at everything.
Right.
So, but more important, if the account's been dormant for 6 months, that no longer has an active Xpel account. To get an Xpel account, they're going to have to go through the qualification process again. And if they qualify, then it's going to be you got to jump all on board all in Xpel. And then I think I sent this last time too, Eric, and I know I'm talking too long in one answer, but we do such a fantastic job with the marketing strategy, and we know this because our competitors have told us openly, you guys did a great job, you ran away with it,
Mhm.
we're now coming after you, we're going to use some similar methods, and they're doing a good job with it.
Mhm.
And yet we started that program, quite a while ago, right? Probably right around that 2011 moment that we launched, Ultimate non-yellowing, self-healing film. So here we are, and what we don't want is a consumer that's Xpel related getting into a shop and seeing another solid brand on the wall like a 3M. Who's not going to recognize that logo? Aussie Suntech, Lumar, right? Two other fantastic brand names, and go, hey, wait a second, you mean that they make paint protection film?
Mhm.
And now we might lose that consumer to them. So that was the reason behind the modeling and the strategy, and it was a very good model for us as a business and for those individuals that jumped on board. And to be very fair, we gave everybody that opportunity to jump on board when we did that change. If
Mhm.
they chose not to, we said, hey, we respect your decision. It's okay. Thank you so much for at least getting back to us and letting us know where you stand. But we're moving forward with this. And I know that I could put a lot of people on this call too that would say, Chris, they're going to laugh. And they go, yeah, Chris was right. I declined it originally, left Xpel, and within a time frame, all back. I really want back in. Is there still that opportunity? Is the room still there?
Yeah.
I'm just dealing with one actually today. Um, and and this guy has been out for 2 years. And here he is saying, man, I made a huge error. I should have taken that opportunity. I didn't. Could you open that door for me again? And I'm looking at it. I don't know that door is available yet, but I am going to look hard. Eric, every one of us in this industry, it's no secret we're commissioned salespeople one way or another.
Mhm.
And obviously we all want to sell more and make more for ourselves and our family and everybody else that's involved. So we it's not like we want to say no. We
Right.
just realize that this is a very beneficial program that we're doing, that it's working out really well for everybody that is on board with it.
Right. It just depends on which side of the fence you found yourself on, wanting the program or having the program, and that's like it depends on which side of the fence you're on. So from some perspective, it's an amazing thing, and from others, they're just wishing they could buy your film and that there wasn't a dealer down the road. So go
Or,
ahead.
or there's still a lot of those that are saying, "Man, why can't I still buy your patterns?" And I'm going, "We're not a pattern company anymore. I'm sorry, but just look at the numbers last year and look at how much of it was software related, and look how much of it was film related. That 90% or 99% of it or something like that was film related." So, and it's funny because I had some guys that were obviously really angry, right? Legitimately really angry with this, and I gave everybody time. I said, look, I'm giving you forewarning. I want you to have an opportunity to go find another software, deal with the brand that you're currently buying your film from, whatever. I'm
Mhm.
not cutting you off today because I'm a shop owner, right? And Dave and I would lose our mind if DAP cut us off tomorrow. So I wanted them to have an opportunity to try and find a better solution that would work for them. But some of them were very like blatantly stating like, I've been a supporter of yours for years, the last 5 years. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I genuinely don't see it the way you see it, and I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that you're supporting the brand of film you're putting on. I don't think you sit there and say to a customer, the real reason this film looks so fantastic is not only the film and not only my installer, but also the pattern that we use. Look at how beautiful the edges line up, and it's
Mhm.
mint, and it's all in house. It's no third party production here. They didn't do that. So I was like, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're seeing it the same way. I don't think you're promoting us, and I know that our sales and our sales growth say the same.
So you know, touching on that, as you have obviously established dealers, many established dealers, and as time goes on, it sounds to me like it's the territory manager, the rep, to kind of make those decisions of, hey, can this area tolerate like more dealers? Is this dealer, is it saturated? Is this and that, and so on. How do you how do you how do you look at like when a dealer might be a loyal dealer, they might be a very consistent dealer, but they're a dealer that's making no growth. As they're with you for longer and longer, they feel maybe more entitled to your brand, and you feel more like, well, what about this guy over here? He's only 2 years open, but he's killing it. Like, what is he locked out from his generation? Like, that's not. It just again, you
No,
decides what side of the fence you're on. So how do you approach that?
no. So look, you and I both know that in Canada, paint protection film per capita is way higher than it is in the US, right? We're doing a
Mhm.
lot, everybody's doing a lot more PPF in Canada per person than they are in the US, which is why we have a much higher target. Well, I think that what you're seeing was that in 2014 in the US, it was the ceramic coating craze that really started to take off. In Canada, I think it was the PPF craze that really started to take off. 16, 17, and 18 were astronomical numbers in terms of growth rates. And now I think you're seeing that here in the US. I think that the daily driver getting paint protection film is really starting to take a hold, like it already has been in Canada for some time. So that window of opportunity is there for the US. Now, what we openly will tell the clients is that, look, we have growth rate target, right? We think that the company is going to grow, let's just say 30% in, let's just use one of my personal states, Maryland, over the next 12 months. I let my dealers know that, because if they can maintain that growth rate that we're anticipating or more, then they're already facilitating what we're looking for. If they stay stagnant, which some guys will, right? Why? Because a lot of shops, as you know, are maybe 1 or 2 man operations. They don't want to do what Dave and I did and buy more stores or make the stores larger or things like. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have anything. I don't say that there's anything whatsoever wrong with that idea. But obviously, they're not going to be able to facilitate growth, right? They're already tapped out. Some of these guys have got a 6, 8 week waiting list to get in to get paint protection film or window tint done and or coatings and corrections done. And
Mhm.
I'm like, look, cool, but we're going to have no choice but to obviously bring another operation on board in order that we don't lose that to the competition. Because again, we have great competitors,
Right.
and they'll strike, right? Which makes sense. So we let them know that up front. Also, in fairness, it's not only the territory manager that makes the decision on whether or not the account comes on board. There is management involved. Management checks and double checks on, hey, you decline this one or you approve this one. Do we feel that your decision is in alignment with how we feel this should go or shouldn't go? And it's great. I get an email probably daily from my boss, Mike Mail, arguably probably the best sales director on the planet, and he'll question me. Hey, I see that this guy didn't get approved yesterday. I see the reasoning. Can you elaborate on it a little bit more for me, or can you get me a better answer?
Mhm.
I know that some of the brands, us included, 3M included, obviously, Formula One and Hooper Optic and stuff like that, and the high end brands for Eastman, they've got an image that they want to portray. And so a lot of guys will reach out to us, and the only reason we might be declining them is maybe because they're mobile, right? I don't think that you and I would not understand that we don't want, especially let's say a client, whether it's a male or a female, showing up at somebody's house and going into the living room to have a consultation on what we should do to their car. And so we want that brick and mortar operation. We want that image.
Mhm.
We want that shop to look like an Xpel authorized operation. And some guys get upset with that decision. And I'm like, look, like, I understand why you feel the way you do, but please understand what we're trying to accomplish. If a guy can say to me, Chris, the only thing I do is dealership work. I don't do any retail whatsoever. Hey, I'm in. Let's show me this. Let's see. Like, prove this to me. And if so, there's a good chance I'm going to bring you on board. But again, you're giving a territorial understanding to a shop, and you put a mobile guy in. Now he's suddenly installing to the guy that you said no to right next door, which has literally happened.
Mhm.
And you're like, well, there goes all that, right? Like, it's out the window. So again, not some tough decisions have to be made, but at the end of the day, I feel very confident that Xpel's making the right ones 99% of the time, and 1% we're nobody's perfect, and that definitely includes myself.
Yeah. Well, so as far as having a person right next to you doing an install, like everybody down the road doing it, I think the first thing that becomes a problem is pricing because you're worried that everybody's going to, race to the bottom. They're going to undercut you, and the consumer is going to be able to leverage price. Now, I'm curious if you're at all versed with like the legalities of pricing. And what I'm getting at, I guess, is I think I'm accurate in saying, like if you were to buy an iPhone from Apple and you were to buy it from Target and from Best Buy, nobody can offer that at 50 or $100 less. Like they're using one price across the board. And what my imagination goes is like Xpel to me has a big brand recognition and that's only growing. And if let's say there were a bazillion places that all install Xpel and the customer can choose from them, but the price is this amount, period, regardless of where you choose, it really eliminates like kind of like a pesty part of the business in general because
Hmm.
there's other PPF places down the road. You're just hoping that, well, you're going to get a different film over there and different installers. Could you take that out of the factor, or is it not even worth bothering, or is it illegal?
So it's funny because some people definitely use the word illegal, and I'm
No
not a
idea.
lawyer,
Yeah.
and yet I sit there and I say the same thing as you. Look, car manufacturers has an MSRP on every single window, and I've had this conversation with some of my shops because some shops are like, you don't understand my market. It's so much cheaper over here, and I'm like, really? Do you guys happen to have a Mercedes Benz dealership near you? Yeah, there's one right down the road. I'm like, so based on what you're saying, I can go in there and I can buy an S550 for 30,000 bucks, but if I go over to LA, I'm going to have to spend 300 just
Right.
because the market's that different. Well, no, I mean, well, is a jug of milk really that different? No. Is the iPhone, like you said, any different? No. So I don't understand how obviously there is call it set pricing for 99% of the stuff that you consume. And yet somehow in this market, it's not. The other part that I'm always curious about is how do a lot of the ceramic coating companies get away with it then? Because a lot of ceramic coating companies have got MAP pricing, right? Minimum advertised pricing. I love that. I think that that's fantastic. I would like it if the industry did that as a whole and said, "Hey, why can every other industry do this except us?" You and I both know that the reality is that an install done at one shop with the same film versus an install done at another shop with the same film could be drastically different in,
So,
in how it comes out. And
right.
so that might be a part of it, right? Plus the install itself. Some guys are bulking. Obviously, a lot of guys are using software. Some guys are taking it, manipulating the software, wrapped edges, pulling headlights out. Some guys pull off bumpers, whatever. So the difference in the install is definitely there. What I would say is that Xpel's very comfortable in saying you cannot devalue our brand, right? We have a brand image that we're going to maintain. And if we feel that you are devaluing our brand, we are going to have that conversation.
Mhm.
We don't want to be associated with the $99 window tint guys. Let's be clear. I know that neither does 3M. I know that neither does Suntech or Luma, right? Again, the other solid brands like Formula One, Hooper Optic. Let's just say Eastman, 3M, and Xpel. None of us want to be associated with that $99 window tint company. So in my head, the PPF is no different, right? I mean, a $995 retail full front end is ridiculous.
Right.
So and I have those conversations. I have had shops where they were supposedly really inexpensive. But the problem too, Eric, as you and I both know, is that 99 times out of 100, it's the customer lying about the price, right? Every single shop sits there and believes what the customer says. I don't know why. It's so crazy because if you called me out, right? If you called my operation out and said, "Hey, Chris, I heard that Protex Kamloops is doing 999 full front ends." I mean, like, yeah, I don't know what customer told you that, but we started 2195, so it's totally not true. Well, the customer told me. No, I get that the customer told you, but it's not true. So you become defensive. Yet the weirdest part is that even myself would be a complete liar if I didn't say that we have a solid competitor in our town. We've had retail clients show up and say, "Hey," and I won't say the competitor's name. I don't want to like make it sound like I'm calling them up, but hey, this shop is $500 cheaper than you for a full front clip.
Right.
Now the convenient part is that shop and the general manager and I and Dave are buddies. We'll text him. We'll go, "Hey, we got this guy here," and we'll say the customer's name. This guy is claiming that you're, currently offering a full front on this GT350 for $500 cheaper than us. Any truth to this? Put him on the phone. He'll call like
Right.
speakerphone. Like, dude, what are you talking about? That's a partial front end that I quoted you for, not a full front clip.
Right.
You're, lying to them.
There's that, but and there's look, it only takes like one or two guys out there in your area to say, "Hey, we're going to do it dirt cheap," and it throws the entire price off. I think like from a consumer perspective, you're going to chop them off at the head at considering a price change because they know that's the price. It's from the manufacturer. Of course, the other brands you can get any price across the board, but you don't know what you're getting across the board. This is the one brand who, hey, that's the price. Like I I don't mind that Tesla doesn't negotiate. I prefer that because I know I'm getting the price. Now, I don't like I hate going into a car dealer and having to feel like now I have to fight with you and we're going to waste a lot of time because you're going to fight with me no matter what I do here. And if I look easy and I go
Mm-hmm.
along with it, you're going to keep coming. So like we're like I hate that. So what I'm saying is I'd rather pay more and not know I'm paying more and not deal with that shit than have that be the thing. It also I think just it's like an Achilles heel for a lot of people. You have to not only be a good installer, you have to be a good salesperson. You have to be good with rebuttals because
Mm-hmm.
customers are going to be equally good salespeople, maybe better salespeople, and come at you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could chop that off, to me, I think it would just make the business easier. And you mentioned installation and different variations of it. I'm curious. Again, you might be able to answer this by saying, Eric, it's not worth the trouble, but is it worth saying, hey, as Xpel, this is what you should look for your installations? Is it going to be, you know, is it going to be flawless? Like, no, you may find this amount of specs per area. This is within tolerance. Like, really defining those tolerances that some dealers are well versed at explaining to consumers, and others aren't. Just coming out with that expectation because I feel like if we're talking about Tesla owners in general, I think there's like a variation of like some people just from being an enthusiast and being on those forums and reading other excited people and seeing pictures from different angles, they become you build an expectation that the car is going to come perfectly from Tesla. And when it doesn't,
Right.
well, by getting ceramic coating on there, that's going to take this car to another level. Or I mean, paint protection and or ceramic
Mm-hmm.
coating. So
Mm-hmm.
how do
Mm-hmm.
you chop that off at the head and not leave it up to the dealers to go from different ends of the spectrum?
So what's important is that Xpel does have an important policy, and we have to make the stores aware of it, right? Which is that the client's got to leave happy, and if the client comes back upset, you got to do what you got to do to make them happy. And look, we know that sometimes the customer is quote unquote wrong, and that their expectation is a little beyond reasonable. Um, and a part of that fault is quite often in the shop, obviously, and not setting that expectation properly from the beginning.
Mhm.
Look, window tint, paint protection film, ceramic coating. If you tell me there's 100% perfection, I tell you you're a liar. There's no such thing. I can find a stretch mark, a glue ridge, an alignment issue, a speck of dust caught underneath the piece of tint somewhere here or there. The swirl mark that got missed. It's there's no such thing as 100% perfection, and if you sell 100% perfection, then I think you're shooting yourself in the foot because I don't think that it's achievable within reason. So when we tell the shops, look, this is what we anticipate from you, and if you can't stand up to it, then unfortunately we're going to have to make a hard decision, which is to leave you. And we've left a lot of shops, and I know we're not the only manufacturer. I'm sure that both Eastman and 3M have made that decision as well. That look, this shop is unfortunately performing poorly. The clients are dragging our mud through our name through the mud as much as the shop, if not more so. And then the weird part is that they hold us accountable. Look, I've never seen an industry where, I don't know, television, right? I want a new big screen TV. Where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to Best Buy because they got all the inventory there and they got great pricing, or maybe Costco. And then I don't have a vehicle big enough to fit a 75-inch flat screen. So I decide, okay, well, I'm going to take the delivery option, and you know what, let's do the setup option. And the guy drops my television when he's setting it up and it breaks. I don't call up Sony and say, hey, this is what happened at Best Buy, fix it.
Right.
But you'd be surprised at how
Right.
many of our Xpel retail clients
Sure.
do exactly that. And I'm like, and sometimes I'm on the phone with them and I'm like, look, like, this is a hard conversation for me because my responsibility is to sell film to good quality shops, and that shop that you're interacting with is one of them. I know that you don't feel that way right now, but it really is. And the reason I can say that is because they're still with us. If we felt that there was too many problems coming out of that shop and they were not resolving them, then we would actually cut them off. But what we expect from you is to give them a shot to fix the situation first. And then if it cannot be resolved, then we'll happily get involved. Does it always work out that way? No. I mean, I wish it did, but it doesn't. And sometimes we step up and fix it, and obviously many times we make the shop step up and fix it, and we'll look at it and look. Sometimes we look at it and go, man, like, I remember Tesla. Speaking of Tesla, this gentleman specifically wanted a one-piece back window on a Model 3.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very adamant about it. I know it can be done. I've seen it on videos, and a phenomenal shop, really well-known shop. Did the installation 3 times. Couldn't get the customer happy. There was a little bit of glue on the second one, which was obviously the shop's fault. Trying to make him happy, peeled off the film, missed a little bit of glue in the very bottom driver's side corner, didn't see it, reinstalled, dries out, customer sees it. What is this? Glue residue. Redo again. Second redo. Customer still pointing out something else. What did I do? I'm like, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get arguably the world's most famous tinter, Dean Mitchell himself. This is before I think he was a rep for me as a sales guy. He was our head of our design for window film patterns. I'm going to get Dean Mitchell to fly out to that area. It's going to cost me a fortune. And I'm going to get him to do the install for you personally. If you're not happy with this install at the end, then I think the right thing to do is to rip off all the film, just give you your money back and say, I apologize, but we didn't meet your expectations. It's our fault.
Right.
Dean went out. Dean did the install. I mean, Dean is a phenomenal tinter, right? Like, literally one of the best. And yeah, it was a fantastic tint, but do I really think it was really that much different or better than the very first one the customer had? No. So I don't know. It was, is one of those situations where that shop was definitely not at fault in any way, shape, or form. Set up the proper expectations from the beginning. Said, look at how big this massive piece of 2-sided sticky tape is going to be going into that car. And we're gonna, we're gonna do our very best to do as flawless an install as we possibly can. But what do you do, right? What does 3M do? What does Eastman do? It's a tough question that none of us have got a perfect answer to.
So we're talking about Teslas, and I'm curious, like, Tesla did away with basically like chrome deletes. For the most part, chrome deletes, if you want it, you're not getting it at a shop anymore. It's there, which is even better than vinyl. I feel like paint protection and probably wraps, but maybe more like paint protection film has to be involved in there. Like it has to be on their like sites. Maybe not, but is that something that kind of has come up or something you've thought about, whether like somehow partnering with them, or are they going to be trying to chop off manufacturers at the head?
So yeah, I mean, look, paint protection film has been supplied to manufacturers for ever and ever and ever, right? I mean, it was not like the manufacturers of the automobiles were making the rear impact wheel area coverage, on Porsche 911s back in the probably 70s. I don't know for sure when it started, but it started really early, a long time ago. And us as Xpel, do we work with some OEM? We do, to point out some of them. We specifically do the Porsche driving experience. If you pick up a Porsche in Germany, with Range Rover, we're doing a stealth program where you can take a matte film on the vehicle from the factory. With the Corvette Museum, the Corvette Museum will only offer Xpel paint protection film, Xpel window film, and Xpel ceramic coating to be done to your C8 when you take delivery. And there are others that we're working with as well that I can't mention because we're on NDAs, and there's more coming down the pipeline. The question, of course, especially for me as an independent shop owner, is to go, wow, like, is there a worry, right? Like, is it gonna eat into my opportunity to sell it?
Because people now, for the first time, are ordering their car. So like they're ordering ahead of time, which kind of it's not on the lot, and I'm not just going to grab it and then it's ordered. So if I want something, I can specify before you even started building it. And that I think is the shift in the marketplace that changes what aftermarket may look like coming up.
Right. And so like you saw, look, Toyota, right? And I forget the name of the distributor for Toyota down here in the south part, but it's I think it's called Southeast Toyota or something, but I might have that wrong. Anyways, the right Toyota right from the quote unquote manufacturer is offering paint protection film, but it's not being done at the factory, it's being done at the port. So, the benefit is that it's creating an insane amount of advertising, an insane amount of knowledge that, hey, this can be had instead of those old black ugly bras that you put on the vehicle that would scratch up the paint in 2 seconds, or the hard plastic deflectors that snapped when a rock hit it, and then floated around and maybe banged up your hood. So we're mindful of this, right? I think that it's realistic to say that it is definitely having a very positive impact and awareness, and that a lot of people think, "Ooh, I can get it cheaper from a local operation rather than paying quote unquote manufacturer's pricing."
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, I think it's actually panning out quite well.
That's a good
Do I could
balance to
think we're
that
going to?
pendulum, really. That's a great balance. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great point that people will always want to, if it's offered from the factory, they'll assume they maybe need to go around the factory and vice versa, you know?
Look at rims, right? You see a lot of rims that are now being offered as a secondary option from the factory. I don't see rim sales slowing down for companies like HRE, and places like that. It's only expanding and growing every year. And the part too is that people now can go, wow, like that, right on screen, I can see a different rim option. Well, whoo, like that really makes a big difference in the look of the car. I do want to, but man, it's $2,500. Well, let me go to Tire Rack or something like that instead and go, wow, like I can get even a nicer set of rims and a set of tires that are specifically engineered for my driving condition for less than that, right? So I know that, me coming from dealership, right? I used to work within the dealerships for many years. I know for a fact that consumers quite often believe that either A, the manufacturer, or B, the dealership is overpriced in comparison to what they can get from a private operation.
So, sort of shifting topics, do you think that, what do you think, I guess, about companies like Sunstoppers? There's many of them, if we, not many like Sunstoppers, but there's many companies of
Yeah,
what
there
I'm
is many
referring
sun
to. You
stoppers, but
you
yeah.
being one of them, because you're like you mentioned earlier, you purchase locations, you grew locations, it's not just, as those shops start to grow in regions of the country and maybe start to consolidate and people then see that and kind of replicate those models, do you where do you see the tint shops that say we're doing it the way we've been doing it, we're fine, we're known in the area, and so on? Do you feel there's a real risk of potentially a shop coming in the area and saying, great, everybody knew about you, but we're going to suffocate you on the internet with AdWords, and we're going to have billboards all around you, and before you know it, everybody will have forgotten you in 5 years or so? Um, do
I
you,
do I do see that as a serious concern. Look, in fairness, right? Again, I can quite often refer to our own shops, right? Dave and I quite often have to look at the marketing strategy, and when we first started, it was television, right? TV commercials on local programming.
huge back
We
then?
spend we Yeah, it was huge for us, and it was great, but we were spending a lot of money, like 5 grand plus a month, for our single store. And social media really started to take off, and we started to refocus our financial efforts instead into Facebook and boosted posts and things like that. And then obviously Instagram and Google SEO. Of course, Google SEO has been around for a long time too. But I think where it makes the biggest difference is in the latest generation of consumer, the youngest generation of consumer as they get older. Why? Because I know that when I was growing up, I felt that I knew way more than my parents did, right? Is it true? No, but I definitely was cocky that way. And I think that every generation feels that way more so than in the past, especially because they have so much more access to instant information through online opportunity.
Sure.
I'm 49, turning 50 in just in April, right? And I didn't have that online opportunity, and I didn't have, what did we have? Encyclopedias in the library, and you had a library card and stuff. Would anybody do that sort of thing now? I'm sure not. So I think that there's more information, more knowledge than ever before. for the younger generation to have available to them. And I think that because of that, they don't want to follow the footsteps of what their parents and aunts and uncles did. As a matter of fact, I think they really want to follow the footsteps of what their influencers did. Xpel works with this incredible group called the Tuner Theory Group. And we see how incredibly powerful they are as this group that we work within Instagram specifically, of bringing a lot of awareness to these younger buyers who again are much more interested in what they have to say than in what their own personal kin would say in terms of who they dealt with. So yes, Sunstoppers, right? Great, amazing organization. Mike Burke, owner. I mean, firecracker. You're seeing him popping up more and more locations. Is it all his personal locations? No. As a matter of fact, now the majority of them are not. They're somebody else owning them, and they're part of this program, this member program. He's got a better term for it than that. That to be part of the Sunstoppers program. But he's got this awesome manager named Thad Norman, who with Mike Burke is spearheading this marketing campaigns for these operations. And I remember that they brought on they had a conversion in Chattanooga, and James posted something on one of the forums saying, in just 1 month, my business has doubled by being part of this Sunstoppers program. And does it, is he spending some money on marketing where he was maybe before? Yes, but the results speak for themselves. I'll refer to I've got a couple of great operations. I've got a lot of great operations in Atlanta. So it's unfair to single one out, but I'm going to, simply because of how fast they've risen. You look at AP3 and Tion, I think, has only been in business for about 5 years. And he is the largest operation in all of Georgia for Xpel. And he's married to us. He dropped everything else in order to make sure that he had that opportunity to keep himself locked up and me not putting in everybody else around him. But man, like the growth that this guy has done in such a short span of time. And I'm telling you right now, a lot of it has been because of his incredible marketing prowess in keeping in touch with
Right.
the younger buyer. Teslas, I don't even know. I don't even know if the guy does 10 or 15 Teslas a day, and it's all retail, right? Because Tesla doesn't wholesale through their delivery centers,
Right.
paint protection film, window tint, coating. So I think that if Dave and I had stuck to TV advertising in the local channel, one of our competitors would have, if they had locked onto the social media platforms and stuff like that, would have gone long around us.
Yeah, I feel like it's we're like the industry's like runners, just getting faster, and because one's getting faster, another one gets faster, sees that time, and gets even faster, and so on. And like that was something that stood out to me about 10 years ago when I kind of was introduced to the industry. Was it just felt like it was so in a way young, like it's a young industry. It's a lot of opportunity. It hasn't been like corporatized, or it's families, and I think that's
You know,
an opportunity, but it's
oh,
always
sorry, Eric.
changing. Go ahead.
Where it's going to make the biggest difference is recognizing who the buyer is now. Because again, paint protection film is not just for the luxuries and exotics, right? It is for the daily driver. And
Hmm.
the daily driver consists of a lot of younger consumer, because a lot of younger consumer are not affording a Lamborghini and a Ferrari and a Porsche,
Sure.
but they're affording a Tesla, and they're affording Chevys and Nissans and Toyotas and stuff like that. And talk about marketing. I mean, look at Tim Hammett, Felony Film, right? The guy is always online
Hmm.
joking about hookers and cocaine,
Hmm.
and it's a facade. But wow, does that facade actually create attention? And people have a huge laugh at it, but at the end of the day, he's branding himself, and it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like it's important to do something, embrace something, and go down a road, whoever you are and whatever strategy you want to take. But there has to be a strategy, and you have to move forward with it, because there's a lot of options to work, but it has to be something that's acknowledged and like worked at. Mm.
Wasn't that so much proof positive in your own operation and how fast you grew and then ended up selling it? Like, it had to be relatable to the fact that you had some kind of plan, some kind of marketing strategy, some kind of interaction with consumers, and wow, how things must be had. Look, you and I both know you had customers show up at the door just like Dave and I do, and point out something and go like, wow, I can't believe that this guy is actually upset about this. This is some of the best work I've ever seen.
Mhm.
But you know what? Our policy is, look, you know what? No problem. You're unhappy. We're going to rip now and redo it. Or maybe we are slammed. We're going to have to reschedule you. But at the end of the day, having that mindset is what makes the difference between a normal operation and a great operation. And it's clear from interacting with you and seeing your success that it must have had the same sort of a thought process.
Well, as far as those types of customers, my like our company policy, the way we handled it is basically what you said about Xpel earlier. Like it is the only option is the customer is going to leave happy. We wanted the lowest, like we wanted the solution that, like I wanted the solution especially that took the least amount of time and had the least amount of stress. Because if money went out of the account or in the account by $1,000 or a couple $1,000s, I didn't care. Like it really, like I cared, but I didn't care at all. But if we were wound up spending all our time that day dealing with a customer that's already unhappy, that to me is a bigger waste because we can make back that money, but we can't make that day. And we can't, like, I never even
I,
wanted our staff to be stressed out. Like, I don't want them stressed out. I don't want them associating stress
I,
with work.
I love it because look, you and I both know that the stress factor is insane, and something you and I touched on last time was females in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Julie Nasadek, who's our our general manager, and quite often on front counters at our various shops, training our staff and keep them up to date. We have Stacy at our canvas operation, and the level of deflation in a situation from a female versus a male is crazy awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You watch Julie interact or Stacy interact with an upset customer versus myself or Dave. Like, even though of course we're passing the buck on to them and letting them deal with the stress, the fact is that they diffuse it so much better than we do. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a male female thing or not, but I uh, I love the fact that you can look at it, see it, quantify it, and go, this is successful.
Yeah, and one of the things that I just want to, I don't think I've ever really mentioned, but I'll use it as a chance to plug Tint Wiz. One of the things that really actually worked for me really well is that if somebody at the office, like somebody in an admin position was answering a call and there was a problem, a big problem, their job was to type it into the CRM, into Tint Wiz, and create a task, and that notification would notify whoever had to deal with that, or if they couldn't deal with that on their own, but they had to type it in there. And then as, let's say me, I would say, oh shit, I have to deal with this customer, let's see what it is. I would read through that and I would contact the customer. Now what that did was it eliminated all that emotion, because that person who took that phone call, if their next move is, first of all, if they feel like, oh shit, this now is my problem and I don't know how to deal with it, their stress level goes to the roof. So first and foremost, show them, hey, it's no big deal. I can handle it. Because once they see that's no big deal, you can handle it. Their next problem is it's going to be no big deal. I can handle it because I saw how it's handled. So just setting that tone. But the other thing is by typing
Mm.
it, like if let's just say you had a really bad interaction with a customer just now. I mean, it was the rudest, shittiest person you've ever spoken to. And now after that, you have to type it. When you type it, you're probably just going to type the problem and move on. If you have to tell it to me, you're going to include all sorts of emotion. And not only are you going to instill that emotion in me, you're going to relive it as you say it. Okay. And now
Wow.
I'm freaking wound up and I'm like, I can't fucking believe he said that to you, Chris. And now I'm going to call that guy with anxiety level 10 instead of like reading it and being like, so there's bubbles? Okay, let me just call the guy and like whatever he wants to do is fine. Like it's not a big deal. So putting into words instead of, I mean, putting into text instead of words was a big one because I don't want to feel that shit either. I want to go, it's no big deal.
So we haven't used TintWiz yet, and yet it's. I mean, I really want to take a good look at it for our own operation, and something. And it's funny because I live in South Carolina, and yet the operation is in Canada, and it's on the other side of Canada, which is a big benefit for me because the last thing I want is somebody going, look, your rep also has shops in your territory where they might try and call us out. Although that I know of an area where that is happening, and it works amazing. But regardless, the fact is that because of this long distance, when there is somebody that's really upset that Dave or Julia has interacted with, it's sometimes a phone call to me. Hey, like we need you to get involved in this, and it's amazing what you just said because when they're talking to me and they're really wound up because the client was really shitty,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I end up I end up absorbing all of that, and it really affects me as well.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, wow, like now I'm on the same heightened level of stress and anxiety that they were. But if I had only read it, I think you're right. As a matter of fact, I know you're right. I would probably sit there with a much more a much calmer demeanor and go, "Huh, okay, who cares? Like, what's the big deal with this?" And it's amazing because now that I say that, sometimes Dave is texting me a situation that's going on, and I read it and I'm like, "Yep, don't care, no big deal. Let's just take care of it." Yet I know that if he calls me, the reaction on my part is a lot stronger. So maybe after we get the call done, let's talk about let's talk about looking at Tint Wiz together.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, as a transition, I guess one of the things I wanted to make sure I asked you was, because we're coming close to an hour, and I don't know how much time you've allotted to this, but I don't want to take up your entire evening.
As much as you want, but I'm not worried.
Okay,
As usual, my wife will put the baby to bed.
fair enough. I appreciate that. As far as Xpel goes, a lot of tinters maybe own their own business, maybe they don't. They're looking at a company like Xpel, and I think, like from my perspective, I've been a business owner most of my life, and I love being in business. But I also, at least at this stage of my life, can appreciate being potentially part of a company that has a lot of smart minds. Because if you're in your own business and maybe you're the smartest person in your business, that can be where it ends. But being in an environment where you're working with other people that are maybe even smarter in different areas, like that's a chance for growth. And to me, like that's what I'm looking for in business is basically what I feel like, we started the conversation at with you was the ability to affect change in a positive way and be part of that. You want to be able to feel like you're going to work to do something. It doesn't matter if I own 99%, 100 or 4%. It really doesn't necessarily. So with that said, if you could touch on what kind of opportunities are there for people who say, I love this company, I'd love to work for them instead of installing film or owning my own shop.
So that's a dicey one because we have had employees of shops reach out to us, and and that shop is almost always already an Xpel shop, right? And the last thing any of us want to do is upset the shop owner and perhaps and rightfully
Sure.
so really piss him off and maybe take his number one installer away from him or her. I shouldn't just say him. That's rude because there's some fantastic female shop owners. Um, take that number one installer away from them and have them feel like we really hurt their business, right?
Sure.
So we've had, like, again, I personally had this happen, and I've said, look, here's how it has to go. If you really want to be considered by us, we would gladly consider you because we know you're very skillful. But I need that permission from so and so first, the owner or owners. Have them text me or call me. Let me know that they're okay with you, maybe putting your name in the hat, if you will, for looking for an opportunity within Xpel. Because yes, we're constantly growing, we're constantly improving, and we're constantly looking for really good quality talent. Michael Dobbins, who's been a big part of our marketing team forever. Maybe I shouldn't say this because it's about to happen, but he's actually moving into sales, right? And like I'm so excited for him. The guy's been on the front line of the marketing side forever. Every customer I've ever spoken to madly loves this guy,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's going to be in charge of Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee, and so that we can get a lot more on ground interaction with that clientele over there. But what did that do? Well, that opened a massive hole in the marketing department, right? If we knew that there was somebody out there within our Xpel world, within our Xpel shops, or outside of that even, that wanted to take on that opportunity, we'd love to hear from them. But if it was like, let's say, as an example, it was Mike Burke's guy reaching out to me to try and take on that opportunity. You get Mike to call me and say it's okay. We'll entertain it, but without it, it isn't going to happen.
I
But
mean,
we'd love it.
from like on that subject, on the subject of territories, throughout this entire conversation, there's clearly a theme of, there's humans making decisions at Expel. It's not like this is the law, this is what it is, that's what the lawyers came up with, it's written here, and that's what we follow. It sounds like there's a lot of you know, people taking case by case basis on all aspect, and I really, you know, I think that's
I'll give
incredible.
you a good example of that if you'd like. Look, up until what, a week and a half ago, we didn't have what I would call the complementary coatings, right? When we brought out Fusion Plus, we honestly, I think, would say we had PPF shops in mind, in that we thought that they would love the idea that here's one bottle that you could use that would probably go on literally just about everything and do an incredible job. Was it a specialty product other than for paint protection film, and obviously vinyl?
Yeah.
No, but if I put it on my rim faces, if I put it on my glass, if I put it on my interior, would it work really well? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it would work fantastic. And we thought this is what they're looking for, right? Without talking to them. And we presented it that way. And a lot of shops, love it, love it, love it. Well, however, then a lot of the really high-end detail shops, and some of our PPF shops are those high-end detail shops, started giving us different feedback. Like, look, Chris, like, you want me to be 100% Xpel, but you don't have a rim and caliper coating. And
Right.
so when I'm dealing with a client, I want to be able to have a specialty product for that. I want to have a specialty product for glass.
Right.
So when I say that we were telling shops, you've got to make a full conversion, we were aware of the fact that we have some holes, right? And if we have a hole, don't feel that you can't fill it with something else. You can, but the hole has to be there, right? We don't have a hole in automotive window tint. We don't have a hole in solar flat glass. We don't have a hole in most security flat glass. We might have a hole in some decorative. So if somebody, like right now, I was talking to a client earlier today, he's thinking about jumping on board, and you know, we were going through the full product line. I said, look, let's be clear about something. I don't make vinyl. You want to carry 3M vinyl because you love the 1080 and 2080? Go ahead. You want to promote the 3M vinyl name? Of course, please feel free.
Right.
That's not a conflict of interest. This guy actually does a fair bit of flat glass.
It is.
I
It's
said,
a
look,
it's a way to nudge themselves in the door, though. I'm just saying. Like I feel like
it is, but like,
yeah,
you know, it was like, I'm like, look, like, you know, as long as you're not buying my competitor in an area that I produce, we're good.
yeah,
The second I find out that you are, it's like a marriage. You've
right,
cheated on me,
right,
and I'm probably going to say, honey, I love you, but I'm out the door. And I'm going. And look, the fact is, I've got as this is going to sound a little rude, so I really don't mean it to, but I've got every probably installer around you asking for me right now. So if you decide to leave, it's all good, because I realize you've made a conscious business decision on your part to look after you, and I'm going to do the same. And now I'm just going to call up those 3 or 4 shops that have been begging for me to bring them on board, and I'll bring them on board instead. And you know, that's what's going to happen. But shops, you know, shops should always make the decision that's best for them, not what's best for us.
yeah. I mean, ideally it aligns. And you know, there was a question in a group maybe like a week ago, and it was about the question was basically, you know, like, what do you look for in a manufacturer? Like, what are your expectations in a manufacturer as far as like customers?
Oh, I saw that
Right.
post.
And one, like some of the people were like, hey, I'd love to get a phone call. I need a phone call. I just need to know that you're there. And other people are like, I don't want to hear from you. And one of the answers that stuck out to me, I think it was Marco, I think an Xpel trainer. And he said, I just want them to do what they're going to say, what they say they're going to do. And I thought, you know, that kind of says it to me, because some companies are going to set themselves up to reach out to you on a monthly basis, and some are not. But do you know, like, what do you want? You pick the company that's going to do what you want, and that's it, right? Like, what did you think about that? How do you deal with that sort
So
of?
I saw the post as well, right? And the way the post started, if I remember correctly, was something like, I would rather spend a little bit more money and have my rep stop by and visit me and pay attention to me than for me to never see and hear from them, right? And I went, very fair. And the shop is the consumer, right? Let's talk, like, let's be
Right.
real here. They're the ones spending money. And I don't care if they're spending $500 a year or they're spending $5 million a year. When they spend money, their feeling of what they deserve is correct for them.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that I can facilitate it, but how they feel they need to be interacted with is very real for them, and it's the correct truth. So I have to point this out for when I do my intro calls. My intro calls typically last half an hour to 45 minutes, sometimes well over an hour. It's one of the things I always point out as a deficiency. And I say, look, like, I know my competition. I'm friends with a lot of my competition. They're great people over there. And I know that they have way more reps in, like, let's say North Carolina, which is just one of the 9 states that I currently cover. And so I can't go out and go visit every, as a matter of fact, I visit very few shops. I love shop visiting. I'm a shop owner. Dave and I will love to grab ideas from other shops and maybe exchange some of ours with them in return. But I can't do it. I spend 10 hours a day minimum on the phone every single day, like in minimum 6 days a week. And so in order to facilitate that and to get everything done that I need to get done on behalf of my operations, it's almost always done from home. Am I traveling? Yes, but I'm traveling for jiu-jitsu. I'm traveling for SEMA. I'm traveling for Barrett Jackson's. I'm traveling for, and if I'm traveling, can I go visit a shop or two? I try to. But again, I point this out. And that post was kind of interesting to me for that reason, because I'm like, when I'm talking to some of the prospective shops, I go, look, some shops are what I call higher maintenance. They constantly bother me about, when are you coming to see me? And I go, look, I probably have upwards of 1,000 customers. There's 365 days in a year. If I was to spend every single day on the road, that would be 3 customers a day. That's the only way I'd accomplish it. Never going to happen, because my wife's going to leave me for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to burn out. So instead, I will openly tell you right now, I probably won't see you, other than at SEMA, Window Film Conference, Dealer Conference, NADA, whatever, NADA. But my question to you is, would you rather a customer showing up at your door saying, I'm looking for Xpel, I'm here to spend money? Or would you rather that I showed up at your door saying, I'm from Xpel, I'm here to collect money and get you to purchase from me? You have to make the decision, because you're not getting both. No company has both.
Right.
They have either the mega amounts of reps on the ground driving around, convert. I'm, come and pat you on the back, man. You should buy from me. I'm better. I'm cheaper. I'm, easier to install. Blah blah blah. Or you have what Xpel's doing, which is directing clientele your way, and it's not an easy decision. So I mean, a lot of shops go, no, Chris, it's all good. I never see my rep anyways, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. I'll hold you to that, because in 6 months from now, if you're calling me saying, when am I seeing you, we're going to have to revisit this conversation. Now, what Xpel is doing is we are tightening up the territories. We have this, Mike Mail, right, and Matt Moreau. They have really been putting a lot of effort into dividing the territories up into smaller territories, so that, like we were saying earlier, with Dobbins now handling Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee, is to have a little bit more of that interaction. Are we going to be at the level of the other guys? No, we don't want to hire 100 guys tomorrow. That's not what we want to do. We want to keep that dollars directed towards the marketing program and platforms. But it's funny, because again, in that same post, there was a lot of guys saying, "Oh, I would spend more." Man, if that's the case, then I don't understand why any of you ever ask me for a price list.
Right.
Because every single shop
Right.
I ever talked to wants to know, what's my pricing. And if I said, guess what, I'm going to come visit you every 2 months, but you're going to be $7 a square foot for paint protection film, I don't think they'd be saying yes to that. Or, regular color stable film is going to run you $2 a square. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. So what I did say in that post, I commented on it, and I said that. I said, look, there's either a rep showing up trying to collect money, or a customer showing up trying to spend money. Which of the two do you prefer? And ultimately, if you were to get both, honestly ask yourself, how much more would you really spend? Because the other thing, of course, that happens, Eric, is as shops get larger and larger and spend more and more and more with any manufacturer, what's the first thing they're looking for?
Discounts.
More discount.
Yeah.
Where's my price break? Right? We have official tier pricing, which I love, because it took away the cowboy pricing. But that is something that they all ask about. So I'm like, is it, are you sure that you're really sincere in this statement that I'd spend more? Okay, 2% more, maybe. But 30% more, I don't think so.
Right.
My,
So
that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
now I know you said everybody obviously like their expectations are their own, so that they and those are all right for them. And
Mhm.
I agree with you sort of, but since we're over an hour into this, I want to get a little squirrely with that and say, what if those are your expectations, if you are one of those people who say I really like somebody to come to my door and just say hello, I would reevaluate that expectation, and I would implore you to consider um, prioritizing their availability, meaning when you need something, how quickly can you get in touch with them? How quickly can you resolve questions and problems? Because to me, that was the utmost importance in my business. And I definitely couldn't stand when a rep just showed up unannounced. That was the worst thing in the world to me. That was the
I
worst
said
thing in
that
the
same thing
world.
in that same comment section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the worst thing. I mean, I literally, I regret it, but like I've probably been in another room and said things I shouldn't have said that they probably heard, and I look like an asshole. I've told the owner of the company we were buying film from they should fire their rep and just let me order online and I have great customer support or whatever. And I'm like, I look back and I'm like, why would like that was such a shitty thing? But I believe in it so much that you know, as a business, look, we have users for TintWiz, and it is utmost important to me that if you have a question with TintWiz while you're using it, whether you're in Australia, you're in Canada, you're in the US, whether it's the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, you're on a job, I need to get you an answer immediately. So to us, I said,
Okay.
you're going to be able to do that by contacting us through live chat. Through live chat, I can guarantee 24/7 you're going to get an answer that quickly. Now, what I also said was, there's no phone number. And that's a tough one for people. It's a tough one for people to swallow. But here's the thing. What that does is it does cause a little bit of friction for me, and I have to kind of prove myself and explain it. But it shifted our business in the direction that because of that, because I didn't have to staff a bunch of customer service agents. I also don't have to train a bunch of customer service agents. I don't have to worry about them giving wrong answers to the people on the phone. So we're already now solidifying the experience you're going to get. Now, next to that, you don't get a busy phone call. We don't get people that are sick. We get none of that shit. You get us. Now, granted, you don't get to talk to us. You have to type it. Now, if we go back to the typing thing, what happens when you type things is you simplify the problem. Sometimes you even talk yourself into the answer. When you talk about it, we
Sure.
probably waste a lot of time and blah, blah, blah. So, like, there's so much more efficiency there. And, we have one last thing that just kind of to complete that thought was, you know, we offer you can live chat with us anytime you want. You want to talk to us on the phone, we're going to do a Zoom call. You can schedule that yourself online too. And what that allows
Okay.
us to do is we can tell companies, hey, let your staff individually schedule their own training. You hire somebody, schedule them for the first hour of their employment. We'll train them on the CRM. You don't have to worry about it. If you have questions, we're in live chat. We're able to do that, and I can guarantee there's no app in the industry, no app in a related industry that's going to give you that level of back and forth and go, oh, I can get an answer anytime I want. And the other way is I could cave in and say, we're going to have a phone call. And next thing I know, I'm like this. I'm on the phone and I'm getting other phone calls. And then there's going to be a post in the window film revolution. I called Tintwiz. I didn't get an answer. Nobody called me back. It's been 3 minutes. And
Right. Right.
you see what I
Right.
mean? So I really do feel like as a
It's
consumer, a
I lo-
window
I love I love I lo-
you have to
yeah.
just go, we got to shift that shit. As a window film manufacturer, the
No,
stuff
I
has to be
listen.
in place. And
I love it.
as a dealer, you have to go, let's be real. Do I need a friend or are we in business? And I can be friends with them after work. But right now, you know, anyway.
No, listen. First of all, I think that that's amazing because you solved a lot by doing the live chat, and the phone number is a dicey one. Look, and it's funny because in that same comment that I made on that post, I said the same words. I said, look, first of all, if it was a rep from a company I didn't deal with and they showed up, buddy, man, we were always like motoring, right? And our focus is already on our task at hand. And this guy shows up trying to steal even 5 minutes of our time to
Mm-hmm.
talk about a competitive product. It's lucky, that I know that there was times when we were rude too, and I don't know if I feel bad about it, to be very honest with you. I don't think I do. Um, and it was just like, but where I do feel bad is that I would sit there and say, well, why didn't you make an appointment? I'll tell you why I didn't, because he tried calling me 20 times and I didn't bother taking his call,
Right.
right? So I was a
Right.
dick on both sides. Now, also the reps that we did deal with, the companies that we deal with, they had their reps and they would want to come see us. Our business skyrocketed. And we had all of a sudden we had a lot of demand to come do some visits to see what was going on and understand it. And we would schedule it. We'd be like, yeah, tomorrow morning we got a fairly light day. You know what? Great. Why don't you come on in? Let's go. We'll go down the street to Scott's and we'll have breakfast and stuff. And sorry, Scott's is a pretty cool breakfast place in Camas. And we'll go have breakfast. Yeah, guess what happened? They show up at 9 o'clock, but at 8:30, all of a sudden, 3 body shops had to drop off, and a dealership called us up with a last minute package they had to get. And all of a sudden, we're pulling our hair out. Well, I don't have any. That's why it's gone, probably. But Dave and I are like going nuts, and we're like, man, like you're here. Sorry, but we don't have time for you. Like you gotta go,
Or
right?
your phone's
And I
ringing,
said that.
and
Like
you're
I
like,
said,
right.
yeah, I said it. It just never worked itself out like that. It never did. Now, in my own personal situation with my clients, my focus is to try and make sure that my clientele at least know that I'm aware of them, that I'm thankful for their business. I'm thankful that they're spending money with me because they deserve that. So what I started doing, and it's funny, I started doing this, I think right when COVID first started happening, right? Because all of a sudden Xpel was like, guys, I don't know how we feel about you traveling. Like, wow, like not traveling, like maybe, and then we gotta have more time. Well, every single time we have a sale, I'd get an email notify me of that, and I would text the client. I have almost every single customer of mine, male and female, in my phone as a cell number, and I really like text communication. So I see this sale, and at first I was sending it like $1,000 and above purchases, right? That was the threshold, and then text, and I'd see like how much more of my day was occupied with that. Did I not get my day accomplished because of it? And I was like, man, like that was very manageable. Well, then I changed it to $500, and I think now it's at $250, and it's film specific or coding specific. It's not if it's tools or plotter or what have you, maybe a plotter, but anyways, just a nice little text. But we're at Amazon. We don't want you ordering by calling anybody. We don't want you calling customer support. Customer support is there to solve an issue. Like, hey, for some reason the plotter's not working. I can't understand what this language is in the computer. Hey, this box showed up, and the shipping company must have thought it was a football. And look at it, it's demolished. That's what customer support is for. We want you to go online. Your dealer login is right there. Put everything in your cart. Check out yourself. Pick the method of shipping. Man, like who isn't using that at this point, especially during COVID? Everybody had to go to the online ordering method for their groceries and their day-to-day needs. So I agree with you. It drives me crazy if the company isn't, using an online method. I'm like, really? You want to get on the call? Man, I mean, during some moments, that call center can get slammed. You got a guy with a major plotter issue, but we never determined it's a plotter issue yet. That call could be 20, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You only have so many reps. If you had, for some reason, a bunch of calls happening like that, I had some angry text messages from customers going, man, I was on hold today for 11 minutes. And they'd send me a screenshot of the call time. I'm like, why were you calling? I was just trying to order product. Dude, you're joking, right? Like straight away I'm calling. What do you mean? Like, why are you not using the
Right.
online portal? What's wrong with you?
Right.
Do it at night. I don't care. Right before you go to bed, you can do it from your phone. But yeah, anyways, at the end of the day, I don't want the consumer or the shop or customer in this case to not feel appreciated, right? And so that is the reason. But I 100% really prefer the text message. Do I jump on the phone? Obviously, yeah, I do. Sometimes I'm a road warrior. I really like spending time on the road instead of in a plane. Why? Because I can do a bunch of calls, right? So I'll call up a bunch of stores and shoot the shit with them and stuff. And Burke and I probably talk almost daily, and and as do a number of other clients. Tim Ham and I talk a lot, and Tion and I and stuff like that, and I Rick and Joe from Automotive Elegance and Alex from Automobili and all those guys and Donick, right? Like we have a really tight, close friendship now, right? And it's 100% because of this position, and but I don't. Those calls are more on the friendly level. It's not
Right.
business related, right? And but my customer support, like you're saying, like, okay, we don't have the live chat. I'm going to actually bring this up on our management call on purpose now because you said that. But, we do have an after hours number. You call in, and if it is after hours, we recognize you might be trying to do a plot. You might be trying to plot off some tint or some paint protection film. it's not working, and you're still planning on getting that thing out 9 a.m. the following morning. You're going to stay late, and you need service. So we have the after hours where you leave a message. There's a specific, you have to, I think, hit 2 for after hours or something like that. I don't use it, obviously. And we have people on call both in Quebec, because we have an awesome team in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We have another awesome team, obviously, in San Antonio, and we have guys sometimes that are scattered about. And they know, like a doctor, they're on call that day, and they get that message. Boom, we tell them we expect you within 15 minutes to get back to that customer, and it is jumping on the phone. Now, again, if it happens to be a half hour problem, and there's another call that came in, okay, that could delay things a little bit. But yeah, we agree with you. You know, our customers are obviously everything in terms of what creates the sales for us, and got to be mindful of that. And you got to give them a level of service that hopefully they can't complain about.
Yeah. And I think like overall with, like companies, I think like you guys are a good example of the way I see it is, you can expend your resources in hiring salespeople, or you can expend your resources in making your company so great that it sells itself, that people are coming to your door. And, they're two different decisions, and they're two different trajectories, and they play out differently 5, 10 years down the road. And sometimes it can seem, and I just feel like, I'm sure a lot of more window tint dealer, like shop owners than manufacturers are probably listening to this, but I think that can also be applied to the dealer level of, if you want to win over your customers, keep the eyesight on yourself, on your own business. How can you make that experience better for them? How can you make yourself more attractive to them? Because then you don't have to do the selling. You don't have to go out and hire somebody to go knocking on doors, because the doors will be yours being knocked on. And like, you have to like keep that vision, like, and stick to it, because it's not necessarily, it can be like a crutch, like I'll just hire somebody and it'll be their problem, go fix it now, as opposed to
To that point, to this day, I feel convinced at 100% level, other than dealerships, that I have never, and I mean ever, gone after someone. They've come to me. Now, has there maybe been some relationships that had already began? Good example, Chicago Auto Pros, right? They were already using our software. And so I did reach out to them and say, hey, look, like, we would love to have you convert over from another company that they were using to us. So there was a little bit of that happening. Sunstoppers obviously was another one. They had interacted with us at SEMA. They had been using our software. There was a little bit of that. Hey, I really want you, but I have never, and I mean never yet, cold called on a single shop and said, hey, I'm here from Xpel, and what I really would like to do is to have an opportunity to speak with you about what you're currently carrying versus what I have to offer. Every single operation that I have brought on has reached out to me. And I know that that's been a bit of a bone of contention with some of my competitors. There was one rep in particular, and I won't say his name again because I know he's an awesome guy, but he had lost some pretty major accounts. And he was convinced that somehow I was targeting the accounts. And I'm like, oh, I really wish he knew that I had actually never once reached out to a single one of those people. That every single one of them reached out to me, and I just had the straightforward conversation, and in turn they converted.
right.
And it's a shame for me that he felt that way. I was honestly a little personally bothered by it, because I knew it was the farthest thing from the truth. And I know that with your own operation, we talked a little bit about this before, right? Mike Burke brought this up, and the two of you talked a lot about it, which is that the biggest mistake a lot of shops make is focusing on everybody else around them instead of themselves,
Right.
right? And I'm like, man, like, all you're doing is bitching about what that other guy is doing and price point or installation or what. I'm telling you, if you spend
Mm-hmm.
all that energy instead on your own operation, you'd be so much further ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's been a big reason for Burke's success. I look at how incredibly fast he's growing. I think right now we're at 26 or 27 operations. Is he going to be at 100 within another couple of years? Yeah, if not sooner. And it's because of that.
Yeah.
He's not sitting there going, well, let me look at what other, franchise or whatever you want to call them models are out there. What are they doing? No, me. No, none of that.
Yeah.
Just head down, moving forward. I'm motoring, jump on board or don't. It's up to you.
Whatever you focus your energy on grows, whatever that is. And if it's on your competitor, they're going to be growing, you're not. Like, and if it's on
That's what you
you,
said
it's
last time.
you.
I
It's,
love that. Repeat that sentence again. I'm going to steal that. Whatever you what focus your energy on grows.
yeah, I mean, it's like, like the grass grows where you water it. So like stop, watering your neighbor's lawn, like water your own lawn. Like, yeah, but it's really
Right.
like, it's a big one for me because, like like when we started in LA with the window film company years ago, it's an intimidating city to be in. I don't know the area. There's a million shops. There's Campbell. There's Solar Art. There's Window Tints. Everything. There's all these shops that have been around for 10 plus years, and it feels like you're just out. Like, just if you look, it just feels like, oh shit, their website looks like that. Should mine look like that? Well, what about this guy? He looks like he has a new van. I must need a new van. And how did they get that job? I need to go be knocking on hotels, I guess. And like, if you look at that shit, it will spin you in circles and give you anxiety, I feel like, for myself. And what happened for me was I completely stopped looking at any of it right at the beginning. And basically what happened was some time passed and I look back, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm bragging, but we look back and we said, holy shit, like we're bigger than all these people. Like what happened? How are you not
Right.
able to do that? Like, but it was because we weren't looking at them. So we weren't adopting their methods and trying to make it better and probably making it worse. We were doing our own thing. And you need your own ingredients. I always think in analogies, and I think of it like this. Like, think about you're making a dessert, you're making any sort of food dish, okay? And we're working as a group. We can't throw
Yep.
every ingredient into the pot. Every ingredient's used in some version of it, but we can't just throw them all in there. We have to be conscious of what is the end goal, at least some sort of benchmark, and let's work towards that. And forget what the other baker's doing down the way, because it has nothing to do with your recipe.
Yeah, remember we actually had Kyle, right, from Clearbrow Indy on that call also.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at his operation, and he said the same exact thing, right? He came from a very different background in terms of industry, jumped in this, and he said like the last thing I did was care about what everybody else was doing around me. And he's the big boy on the block because of it.
And that's what I think, what touching back on the whole industry evolution thing, I think we're going to see more of that because we're going to see more people coming from outside the industry with other skill sets and other perspectives, them being able to recognize some of the best practices and kind of put them together in a combination, maybe even have some financial backing and, do things that have never been done in the industry and kind of change the landscape. So like I say it not because like I'm trying to make anybody run for the hills, but it's just something I think should be like you should always have a pulse on and awareness on. So just to know where you fit in and navigate your own like business and life.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about this last time too, right? There in the beginning, it seemed to me that the vast majority of the shops that you're talking to, especially the smaller guys, were people that had learned to either tint or coat or do paint protection film working for somebody else. And then they decided, man, I'm pissed off because this guy's making all the money and I should be making the money instead. And they
Right.
demand more and more and more, and they don't get it. And then what do? They well, I'm going to be your competitor, and they get up and leave and go open up their own operation. That is maybe not necessarily the recipe for success, right?
Mm-mm.
So versus somebody that had the skill set like you did, coming from outside the industry and came on board and looked at it and said, how can I be different? How can I look this from a business perspective model rather than an installer perspective? And I think that is a huge recipe for success, or at least a much larger opportunity for success.
Yeah, I think like as like for any like people that are, I think a common thing is to get too caught up on the tint end of it, and maybe like if you're focused on growing your business, the film has to go on the glass, it has to look a certain way, you have to understand the glass and the film, and everything has to be perfect. But that is just the product. There is a whole business that surrounds that product. It can't just be hyper focused on the product because if you're focused on brewing the perfect 1 cup of coffee, you obviously can't open a bunch of coffee locations. You've got to, get it going.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, and again, there are some owner operator operations that are fantastic, right? And that's how they started, and they grew and they learned the business, and it worked out very well for them. And I applaud them for that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the question is, where do you want to get to? How do you want to get there? Right?
Right.
It's not just going to happen on its own.
Right. Right.
You've got to put some sort of mental thought into this in terms of a direction and a goal, right? Without that goal,
Right.
I don't see where you're going to get to. Am I saying you have to write out the most insane business plan and have it all dialed in before you get going? No.
Right.
But am I saying that you have to have something in front of you that you're going to attain one way or another, and you're going to try different methods to get there? I think that is what's required, and I actually think that Xpel is a good example of that. To be very candid with you, and I think that my I call it my method. It's not, I don't want to sound obviously too immodest or something like that. But the method that's currently in place is a good example of that. It was I think for high level management, that was a pretty scary thing to watch what I was doing and wonder how positive or negative that fallout could have been. And I know my job was on the line, right? I'm sure that if it
Right.
didn't work, it would have been, Chris, you got to go.
Right.
And
And
I think they would have been right for that.
and
But they
that's
took a risk.
but that I guess kind of circling back to the beginning, I think you just put it into words. You said your job was on the line. And that is the key like phrase because number one, you're in a culture of a business that you felt confident in yourself and the business the company was receptive and you felt like it was worth saying, it was worth putting your neck out there and so on. And I think sometimes in larger companies, which Xpel certainly is now in that category of very large companies, like, that is completely stripped away. And when you say like, well, who really cares and who really wants to make it happen? Well, there's a lot of great people and they do care and we're not taking that away, but who is really going to shake up the pot in their career and for what? Like, what is that upside
Mm-hmm.
for them to do that when, at the end of the day, like everybody wants their own job security, has a family to pay for, and so on. So that's, I think you said it, like that puts it into better words as to why I think that's such an amazing thing, both for you and for Xpel as a company to have somebody that will do that. Because that's, like that's working in a company with smart people around you, not just, you know, like, cogs or like whatever the word would be, because that doesn't end up having value, you know?
Yeah, Ryan Pape, our CEO, is, I mean, I'm not joking when I say this man's intelligence level is pure brilliance. But he has openly brought in, Matt Moreau was probably one of the best acquisitions ever for that company, as here is a guy that understands sales on a level that very few people in the art of negotiating and the deal, if you will, very few people do. And then they brought in mail, and then of course, there's some individuals like myself and stuff like that. And it's constantly diversifying and recognizing, there's a skill set over here, there's a character trait over here that works in ways that others don't. Let's look at it, let's understand it, and let's use it, and let's not be too quote unquote corporate
Right.
in suggesting that there's only one way and one method and that's it, and there's no opportunity to even have open discussion, if you will.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. That's that culture. Because like also what can happen is you end up with a culture who, like the loudest mouth wins the debate, and before or wins the conversation. And before you know it, no ideas are coming forth because you kind of know how it's going to go. And I mean, there's so many versions of that. The watered down version where everybody kind of weighs in, and you end up doing nobody's version, and no accountabilities there, and nobody's really behind the idea, but it's the only thing that happens. So anyway, I really highly respect that culture. To be able to build a business that large, it obviously takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of great people, and I mean it when I say like that's just impressive. So I'm really like glad we got the
Yeah,
chance
I
to
look at
talk and Mike introduce us because it's a I have a very high level of respect for you and your position and what you've done with Xpel.
oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, the situation is mutual in terms of level of respect. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a super passionate individual, as I think almost every shop owner is. I mean, I don't know many of them that are not type A personalities. And am I madly in love with everything that Xpel has to offer? Yes. Do I personally, right now, think that it's the most complete picture for an operation if they can get a hold of it? I actually really do. Like, there's no lie in that. Do I have do I really like some of the other brands, the other two that I mentioned? I really do. I think that they have a lot to offer. But I think that Xpel has got the most complete package right now, personally. And so that's, I think, why that passion comes through so easily when speaking about it. And at the end of the day, if I didn't believe in it as much as I do, I just wouldn't do it. I would just let it lie.
Yeah, that's the
But
best.
thank you so much for spending the time with me as well. I really enjoyed our last time together, and having the time today with just you and I one on one was fantastic. So thank you.
Likewise, I hope we'll do it again, together again soon. Are you going to be at the convention in Orlando coming up? If it's
I
still
will be there, so I'd love to meet up with you there. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there. Looking forward to it. A lot of my team is going to be there, and we're going to have a good time. We should, hang out, obviously one on one, and spend some time together. And yeah, I would love to do this as often as you'd like to. I was funny. I wondered if at any point in time you were going to prep me for what today's conversation was going to be, or any of the topics, and boom, you came off right away with the hey. So like when you cut everybody off of DAP, like I was like, wow. I think that that's fantastic. I think that that was brilliant on your part to not have it sort of like prepped, and I find the question so incredibly intelligent and thoughtful, and meaning a lot of thought put into it. So any point in time that you'd say, Chris, I'd love to have you on board, count on it. I think that this forum is amazing, and I love what you're giving back to all these shops, installers, owners, marketers, manufacturers within the industry. I think it's amazing.
thank,
Well done.
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And again, thanks for doing this. And I look forward to Orlando and talking again really soon.
Sounds great, brother.
All
Talk to
right,
you
have
later.
a great night, everyone. Thanks for watching.